Right, practice. Some people love it, some people hate it, but whether you're trying to work out the best way to approach a venue or you want to try some different techniques or methods, practice plays a big part in everybody's fishing. So I've brought you here today just to have a look at a typical practice session to see how I'd try and maximise the time I've got on the bank. Today we're at the stunning Dam Flask reservoir, which you wouldn't believe is just 10 minutes outside of Sheffield city centre. It's a place that's steeped in match fishing history, and although it's a bit of a forgotten gem nowadays, it's still a place where a lot of anglers come specifically just to practice because it's such a versatile venue. You can do a myriad of different things here. I've got a few things I want to give a go today. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get down on the box, but first off, let's have a quick look at the bait we're going to use for today's session. Right, really simple bait selection today. For venues like this, I don't really want to complicate things. The main feed's going to be the ground bait, which is a nice cereal mix, my favourite silverfish mix really, when we're not using fish meal. It's equal parts of Vandenine G5, Frenzied Ent Black, some brown crumb, and then 1 part of Sonobait's Banoffee. Really nice versatile mix that. And then feed wise, we're going to use mainly casters. I think there's some really good quality roach in here that I'd like to target. If we're going to track some roach and hold them with casters, that would be ideal. Then I'm also, something that I do here quite a bit is feed some squats. Now the skimmers in here really like squats, and I'm a big believer in not really feeding a lot of what you're putting on your hook so that you've got more of a target bait. So I'm just thinking a little bit of red. It's similar to a pinky, but obviously the fish can root around on that. And then hook baits, we're going to tend to fish 1 or 2 red or fluoro pinkies on top of that. Of course we've got the worms, won't go anywhere without them, but there are a lot of small micro perch in here which can be a bit of a nuisance, so I'd really rather not feed any of those if we don't have to. We'll see how we go on. If we're not getting bites, obviously they are going to go in and we'll just catch what we can, but I'm going to start off without the worms and see how we go on with the casters and squats. Right, so today I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We've got a match coming up here at the weekend, so it's always nice to have a little look before that. And also quite a big event in a couple of weeks. I'm going over to Serbia for the World Club Champs, and we've heard on the grapevine that there could be a chance of some decent fish at short range, so I'm going to be focusing on a short range approach today. Now there could be little fish today, could be perch and roach, or there could be some big skimmers and hybrids, we just don't really know. So I'm going to try and aim to find a depth that's going to give me a chance of catching all species, to be honest. I just want a nice workout, keep in the zone for these matches that we've got coming up. So we're going to start off by looking for what I think is a nice depth around 12 to 14 foot. So we're going to go for something approaching a 4 count. So I'm just going to cast this bomb about a little bit now and see what the bottom's like. So that's bang on a 4 count there, which is actually quite nice. And giving that a little pull. There's no obvious snags or anything. Just have a little look left and right just to make sure. Yeah, it's a pretty uniform depth everywhere there. And again, nice and smooth, so that'll probably be a decent place to start. Because it's a practice session and I've no real idea where these fish might be, I'm more than willing to move in and out depending on what happens. We're going to just start fishing I think today. We're not going to bother baiting it up or anything. We'll just put a hook on, stick a feeder on, start in that depth and see what happens. Just a quick point, I did mention this in the last video I did, but I always use a 1.5 ounce lead for plumbing up. It's important to always use the same bomb so you get to know how quick that bomb falls through the water and you get a more accurate reading of your depths. Right, so as I've just mentioned, in a couple of weeks we're off to Serbia for the World Club Champs, so that's the thing I'm practicing for today. And with that in mind, I've set up 2 rods. I've got one that's what I would call my more traditional braid setup for fishing for small fish at short range, and I've also set up a rod with our detection mono on. Obviously the advantages of braid when you're fishing for small fish, bite detection, very, very, very direct, but that can also be a disadvantage. if we're fishing for bigger fish at shorter ranges, I think the mono is going to come into its own, and that's because you bump less fish. The detection, obviously, it's really low stretch, so we're still going to get that bite detection, but because we've got that extra stretch, it's just going to be a little bit more forgiving when we're playing bigger fish. I think there's a chance we'll hook more fish because they won't feel the resistance, they won't rattle themselves off. So I just want to give that a really good go today and just see how the mono compares to the braid if we're catching slightly better stamped fish at short range. Right, so to start a session like this, as I say, I don't want to be putting down a bed of bait, I don't want to get committed to an area. I'm just going to start casting, quick cast every 30 seconds, and just try and get an idea of what, if anything, is in the peg. We might get a quick response, we might not get any response at all, and then we can think about moving if we need to, going into deeper water. But I just want to be active. Oh, it's got a sign there straight away, which is nice. And there we go, we've got one first chunk, which is quite unexpected, but it can happen on here. There's a lot of fish in this place. Nice little skimmer to start off with. That just shows you don't need to go piling bait in at the start of a practice session. You can just feel your way in, and then it gives you options as to what you want to do as the session progresses. So same again, I'm just going to put a couple of casters in this time. Now I know there's some fish out there. We start introducing a bit of bait. Still don't want to go too mad. So it's an interesting day today. We've got bright sunshine at the minute, which is making it really hard to see the tip. But also, it's looking a little bit ominous over in the distance. And I won't be surprised if we're going to get a few showers as the day goes on. So cast 2 and we're into another fish, which is nice. Didn't expect it to be quite this good, but look at that, it's a lovely roach. If you can see him on camera. A couple of pinkies on a size 16. And if we can keep them coming all day, it'll be a lovely session. So like I said previously, I'm just going to feed a few casters today, I think, because them big roach in here really like the casters, so if we can target them, it'd be a really nice workout catching a few roach today. Watching that feeder down, no signs on the way down, which is what we want. We want to get them fish right down on the bottom where our bait's going to be. Makes it a lot easier to catch them. So as always, we'll be looking at the consistency of the ground bait and what feeder we're using. If we keep getting bites, we'll obviously get onto a cage window feeder pretty sharpish. Another little sign there. So again, just a good example of how you can come to a big place like this. You don't need to go bombing a load of gear in, you can just start fishing. As you can see, we've had that's another little skimmer. 3 fish and 3 chucks there, feeding very little bait. Brilliant start. So we've started fishing today on the braid setup. Like I said, I've set up 2 rods today, one with braid and one with detection. I wanted to start on the braid rod because it's very direct. It means we're going to be feeding the bait in a very accurate way, and it empties a lot cleaner using braid. You can really strike your feed out of your feeder nice and cleanly. So we're going to start off for the first little bit of this session fishing with the braid rod, and then as it progresses, if we start catching a few better fish, a few skimmers might turn up, then it'll be interesting to see what difference switching to that detection makes when it comes to bite detection and hitting bites and potentially hooking more fish, especially with this wind. When the wind gets up like this, as you can see now, it's really it's getting quite severe, and it's really hard to fish with a slack tip, which when you're fishing a free running rig like this, it's really quite important to fish with a slack tip so that the fish don't feel the resistance of the feeder and the tip and the line. And I just think that with conditions being quite adverse like they are today, using mono might just make things a little bit more relaxed and just give us more chance to hook a few more fish without them feeling that resistance. Just a theory, but it'll be interesting to see. It's not something I've done a lot of fishing with mono for small fish at short range, so I'm really interested just to see what kind of difference that'll make. I think a lot of the time, you might see today if we get some good tip shots, if your tip's really tight, so I'm going to tighten up now. When your tip's really tight like this because of the wind, sometimes you'll get a little indication, but you can see that the fish has rejected the bait straight away. Or sometimes you'll think they're hooked, but because of the tension they just rattle themselves off. And I think that'll be a lot less of a problem when we start using the mono. Like I had a couple of taps there, and I think that fish has just felt the resistance, whereas if I slacken off now, if that fish is still interested, you tend to get a better bite. But obviously when it's windy like this, it's just really hard to fish as slack as you'd like to. So despite the conditions, which have been changeable, I think it's fair to say, we've had a lovely morning's fishing, and we're catching perch, chunky little roach, skimmers, the odd hybrid. It's been really good, and we're just still feeding the odd caster, fishing pinkies on the hook at the minute. Tried wormhead, but it's not actually been quite as good. I think if they want to see that colourful bait falling through this water today, and yeah, it's been a really nice morning, but I'm really finding it quite hard to present the rig I would want to now. This wind's really blowing on my braid. I've got a tight line no matter how much I try and slacken off, and it's just getting a little bit hard to hook the fish like I was earlier. So I think we'll just try and catch one more, and then we might swap over to the other rod and see what kind of difference fishing the mono rather than pikes. Just had that one again. They've been a bit of a problem today. So I think we'll just make the change now, swap over to that other rod and see what kind of difference that makes. So we've just swapped over to the mono rod now because we were getting a few dodgy little indications, and to be fair, I think sometimes you can have too many fish in your peg, and when you're fishing braid it's hard to determine exactly what is a bite and what's not a bite. It can get a bit frustrating, and we've just swapped over now to the mono, and I've just had 3 very clean pull rounds. It's been absolutely night and day the difference, to be fair. I think there's a lot to do with the resistance as well. The fish are picking it up a lot more confidently. They're not feeling the resistance of the tip or the feeder with the braids pulled tight in the wind. And when the tip goes round, the fish tends to be on. So it's made a real big difference, to be honest. Even for small fish, I've just had a couple of roach and perch. It's a completely different experience. You think, oh, the fish have completely gone, there's nothing happening in the peg, because you're not seeing as many rattles and taps, and then all of a sudden the tip's round and you're into one. I think definitely sometimes with braid you almost see too much in your peg, and you end up picking up on bites that aren't bites and disturbing things. And I think fishing mono occasionally in the right circumstances means you avoid all that, and you're just picking up on proper solid bites when the fish is definitely on. Like that one, there were no mistaking that fish were on. And I've not seen any rattles or indications, just a nice steady pull around. Lovely roach again. Show that to camera if you can. Before the wind really got up, fishing braid were fine. But since it got really wild and the waves have picked up and the line were really tight, I was probably coming back without a fish every couple of casts. But since we've swapped to the mono, I think I've had one every chug. And I think that's because when you're fishing a free running rig, you really need the line to be nice and slack. You need that lack of resistance so the fish doesn't feel it. This mono's sinking a lot nicer. There's more give in it, and I think when the fish are picking up the bait, there's just a lot less resistance, so we're hooking a lot more fish now. It might be taking slightly longer. It's probably more that it feels slightly longer because you're not seeing any indications. You think it's gone quiet, then all of a sudden round it goes and you're into a fish. So definitely made a big difference in these conditions. And of course, this is exactly why you do come practicing, to try things like this that you'd never try in a match. You can't afford to be trying things that you're not confident with in a match. But when you can get out and have a session like this, try something a bit different, can often turn out to be really beneficial. And that's another one we've got there. I think it might be I'm going to guess it's a skimmer, this one. Another little skimmer. You see they're not massive fish, but you can't miss these bites. Right, so that's been an absolutely fantastic session. It's absolutely solid with fish now. One a bung, another fantastic skimmer. The sun's even come out. We've got drenched earlier, but it's really nice now. And yeah, it's been really valuable. Swapping between this braid rod and the mono rod, it's definitely going to be something to think about as we go into the matches I've got coming up. Especially if we're going to be catching some big fish at short range. I think it's going to really come into its own there. But even as we've seen for catching small fish, it sometimes just simplifies things a little bit, slows you down. You're not getting all those indications that can be troublesome. I think there's definitely a place for it in my fishing, and it's probably something you should have a look at as well. So get out and give it a go, and thanks for watching.